This Ole Miss versus Oklahoma game, it feels actually bigger than it probably is. This is the Locked On Ole Miss podcast, and let's pregame.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Willis, a 10-year veteran member of the national media and a former Ole Miss staff member. We will bring in Mike Huesmann in just a second from the After Dark Network and Mike Furl Sports to break it all down. Thank you very much for making Locked On Ole Miss your first listen, and please give us a like, subscribe, and comment on your way out. And check out a second listen on the network. Nearly every team, college and pro, is available. This episode is brought to you by Mazda. Like our players, they sweat every detail because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned for later in the highlights when we go to this week's Moving the Game Forward. Mazda, move and be moved. All right, Mike. Looking at the video around Norman, Oklahoma, there is literally no way that field is not going to be soaked.
Nope. And they're on natural grass. We are going to be in for a muddy one later on. That I don't know how windy it is, but the field itself is going to be in rough shape.
Yeah, and it does not look very windy. Ole Miss and Oklahoma both, as Mike Leach always used to talk about, he doesn't care about the rain. He doesn't care about the mud. He cares about the wind. And it looks like all of this has gone out as far as the front moved through. So it's just dealing with the remnants of it being wet at this point.
Yeah. And you brought up a good point where that could come into play. We're dealing with a QB that's having grip and thumb problems. That's where the water could make a significant difference here.
Yeah, whenever you're in a situation to where gripping a dry ball is a question and throwing the ball downfield, what are they going to do with a waterlogged ball? Even if it is just drizzling, if it looks like the Ole Miss Georgia game a year ago, if it's doing that, how is the grip going to be? Are they going to risk throwing the ball down the field? All of that stuff is going to be big questions. Listen, this Oklahoma team is very good, and there are two major questions that I have going into this game. And the first one, obviously, is the John Mateer thing. The second thing is when the field is soggy and you have a dominant defensive line, that is an equalizer to the offensive line.
Absolutely. And both of these teams have pretty salty D lines, which will relish a situation like this. They're both, Ole Miss gets after the passer very well. Oklahoma has the most sacks in the country. Oklahoma has the third best run D in the country. And Ole Miss is very good. Their pass D is top 30. They're allowing less than 200 yards a game passing, combined with a QB who's not, being able to grip potentially, won't be able to throw it downfield much. Both of these D lines are going to like where they're at going into this game.
Yeah. And, whenever the field gets soggy, just so everybody knows, and the defensive line is taking off, it makes the get off like a half a second slower and stuff like that. That's how it becomes an equalizer. It's not a push and pull type situation. It's just a footing that slows everything down. And the thing that Oklahoma is elite at, and they're absolutely elite at this, is their get off. So if that gets slowed down even a half of a beat, that is an advantage to an Ole Miss offensive line that didn't allow a sack or a tackle for loss against the Georgia Bulldogs last week.
Yeah, I think that's a good counter to how I worded it, where, the D lines might like this situation. You brought up points where it's going to be a negative for them as well. I think that's very good. And one thing I wonder how this will affect Oklahoma if they have to run more, if the Mateer problems are in fact real. Conventional wisdom would tell us you're going to run more, when the weather is bad. They've been running the ball better the last couple of weeks with Blaylock, but up until 2 weeks ago, they had not ran the ball well. I wonder if this sets them back a little, the weather combined with, we've now seen them run it more, which will give Ole Miss more time to prepare for how they're liking to run the ball. So that might put a damper in some of their improvement in the run game.
You know, Ben Arbuckle, the offensive coordinator at Oklahoma, he's a branch off of the Leach tree, but not necessarily on the trees, like a distant relative, like a second cousin. But whenever you play these air raid guys, like even Lincoln Riley or whoever has been doing it, they like running the ball, and they might commit to running the ball one game, but they are going to get back into what they're comfortable with because their muscle memory is throwing the football. I'm curious to see if Ben Arbuckle can commit for a second week in a row to running the ball.
Yeah, if any of you out there watched North Texas last night and Drew Mestamaker threw for 600 yards, their head coach is Eric Morris. That's the branch Ben Arbuckle is from, with these guys at Western Kentucky and before. And like you said, even when they're running the ball well, when they're spreading and getting lanes, there is usually not a lot of stick-to-itiveness week to week. You're still getting back to winging it around, and that's just your identity. That's how, that's going to be your bread and butter. So we'll see, necessity is also the mother of invention sometimes, and maybe they'll have to run it more because of Mateer's health.
Yeah. So we'll see exactly what happens. This is Ole Miss's first trip to Norman, Oklahoma. I'm pretty excited to see it because, a place that's so steeped in tradition and all of that. I talked on my show this week. I grew up watching the Nebraska-Oklahoma game because half of my family is from Lincoln, Nebraska. Yeah. And they're huge Nebraska fans, and they're big. So obviously I rooted for Oklahoma from the time I was 7 years old up just to do that. And so there's always been a soft spot in my heart for Oklahoma. And it's cool that Ole Miss is going up there to play this game. It's cool to see exactly where Ole Miss is at, because if Ole Miss wins this game, and believe me, they can win this game. They can absolutely win this game. If they win it, they're going 11-1. They're probably going to host a playoff game as the 5 or the 6 seed in Oxford, Mississippi, or go to
I
the SEC
think they probably get a bye. They probably get a bye if they only have that many.
Yeah.
Or if they have 2 losses. Yeah.
Because if Ole Miss wins this game against Oklahoma, they are going to be 10-plus point favorites against everybody left on their schedule.
Yeah, definitely.
So,
and you get into a situation there, if you're 11-1, whether you win or lose the SEC title game, you're still probably a top 4 team and hosting a playoff. Because remember, this year, it's just the top 4. It's not, they don't have to all be conference champions that host them. So there's a really good chance right now that Ole Miss and Indiana will both be bye teams, looking at the remaining of their schedules and where they're at right now.
It's absolutely nuts. And if that happens, Ole Miss fans, I'm like, this is putting the cart way above the horse right now, right ahead of the horse. But that's Ole Miss in the Sugar Bowl, potentially. And Ole Miss in the Sugar Bowl, that's a pretty special thing. Ole Miss went down there 2 times in the last 10 years or so and just completely sold that place out. Just went absolutely nuts.
Was the Penn State one in New Orleans or Atlanta?
I was in Atlanta.
Okay. I wasn't sure which games were in New Orleans. Yeah.
Yeah. And we'll see exactly what it looks like. But if Ole Miss can get through this game, this is such a massive game. I don't think you can understate how massive this game is for Ole Miss, for what it means. Because if Ole Miss wins this game, everything is on the table for them.
And it really is in a lot of ways for Oklahoma too, because you're at 1 loss now. If you beat a really good team today, then their schedule's certainly tougher the rest of the way. But between Tennessee, Alabama, Missouri, LSU, I mean, that's a gauntlet. But you can lose 1 game and still be a playoff team. Maybe you can even lose 2, depending on how other teams do. So their playoff hopes are also very much alive if they get a win today. Oklahoma probably doesn't make it if they get a loss today, because I don't see them winning the rest of their games.
Actually, I'm like, whoever loses this game is probably taking another L the rest of the season. There's no way they're going to run it to go to 10-2 if they lose this game. I think Ole Miss is 9-3 or 8-4 if they lose to Oklahoma.
Okay.
So
yeah,
even though they're at a point where they should be all right, it is set up like that. Anyway,
and if they take another loss after today, it's like a Kentucky or Florida loss last year where you're losing to a team you shouldn't be losing to.
Yes, absolutely. It would be a pretty big choke job if we're going to be completely honest about it. But when we come back, we are going to continue to talk about this football game. And of course, the third segment is yours. So comment on there, put where you're commenting from. We'll hit that in the third segment as well. I hope everybody is safe. Everybody is having fun in Norman, Oklahoma today. It's a wet one. It is an absolute wet one. And maybe at least dries up to where you can sit in the stadium, but it looks like it's going to drizzle all the way through it. But when we come back, we will talk more about that game. But this episode is brought to you by Mazda's Moving the Game Forward. For those who believe, wait, let me start that. This episode is brought to you by Mazda's Moving the Game Forward. For those who believe it's about playing the game, and it's about redefining it. There are moments that do more than just put points on the board. They move crowds, culture. They keep moving the game forward. This week's moment that moved the game forward is Trinidad Chambliss leading 5 touchdown drives and 5 possessions in a game that Ole Miss led in the fourth quarter at Athens, Georgia. It was Trinidad constantly being a problem that put Ole Miss in that position. When you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. There are more things to every highlight, just like there's more to every Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. Do us a favor, like, subscribe, and comment on the video. Subscribe to the podcast on whichever audio podcatcher you listen to and give a 5-star review. It costs nothing but keeps all of this free. Locked On is getting ready to change the game again, all in the name of having fun following your team. It's coming in December. And join the subtext link down below. That is the exclusive home to in-game thoughts from Dalen Flowers, from me, talking about this Oklahoma game. And, of course, if we get any information about Lane, it'll go in there as well. And don't forget to check out a second listen on the network. Nearly every team, college and pro, is ready for you. So that's pretty cool indeed. All right, Mike. This is a big game, as we talked about the whole first segment. We talked about a couple of things that Ole Miss has to their advantage. Ole Miss's run defense in the drop 8. We talk about how the drop 8 is an excellent matchup against this offense because they need the space. A drop 8 zone. I guess it was Washington that started, and they figured that out against Washington State when Mike Leach was there. And it just kind of spread around college football. But Oklahoma does have the ability to run the football. So the question becomes, is it the LSU game or is this the Washington State game? Because Washington State and this team, there's some similarities. It was almost like Washington State was a little bit of a JV of this.
And it's interesting you say that because that's where Arbuckle was coaching last year. So I don't want to say it was, a tune-up, but there's
some
a lot of similarities there. Yes. And you were right about the drop 8 is going to be the way to handle this Oklahoma team. And not only in the pass game, but especially in stopping Mateer running the ball, because you're going to he still might run for some first downs. You're taking away the big run plays that he was getting up the alleys, though, when people bailed the cover and he just tucked it and ran. That shouldn't happen as much against that defense.
I think the difference that Ole Miss fans are going to see, whenever I say drop 8, they're going to give that drop 8 look just about every play, but that doesn't mean the same 3 players are going to rush. I think that Ole Miss is going to zone rush. From time to time, they're going to do some simulated pressures and things like that. And when that happens, if you speed up a John Mateer, who Oklahoma has had some turnover problems this season, maybe you break through, you start getting some of those explosives. And if Pete Golding can ever get a team into second and long, third and long, he can be very effective in third and long. But the problem is you just have to avoid the 2nd and 6, 3rd and 2, 1st and 10, 2nd and 6, 3rd and 2, 1st and 10. That'll get you beat. That got you beat against Georgia.
And Where Oklahoma is good in the passing game this year, Isaiah Satekna, the slot receiver, Arkansas transfer, the way they're using him and the way he plays is a pretty good matchup against that defense because he's going to go do the underneaths, outs, crossers, just past the first down marker. And a lot of those zones should be there based on how Ole Miss is playing defense. He's not a big play guy all the time, but those underneaths are going to be able to dink and dunk for some success.
Yeah, that's what Oklahoma did a week ago against South Carolina. They threw it short. There was a lot of catch and run, and on a soggy field, you could slip, and that catch and run can turn into a big play. But I think that's the plan, to kind of play shell, keep everything in front. If Oklahoma can run the ball, do it consistently. I don't think Ben Arbuckle wants to do that consistently over the course of a game, even with a slightly injured quarterback. I think he wants to throw the ball a little bit because that's what he enjoys doing. That's what he's built on.
I think that's well said. They're good at it. They want to do it. And I think in his mind, like most of the air raid, you talked about a branch of the Mike Leach tree, the entire tree, when they conceptualize a game in their head, it's us putting points on the board by throwing the ball. They don't see it happening a different way, I think is a good way to put it.
Yeah, and there's some good players. That little freshman running back for Oklahoma is really good, Blaylock. Yeah, it just looks like he's going to be absolutely fine.
Yeah.
I do think that if Oklahoma loses this game, it starts a chain reaction to where they could end up possibly 6-6. And well, maybe they beat LSU, so 7-5. And if that happens, does Oklahoma get rid of Brent Venables?
In the preseason, I had put him on a potential hot seat for a few reasons. He's making a ton of money. They don't have a lot of patience there. And as solid as they are this year, he was 6-7 his first year. He won 10 his second year, both in the Big 12. Then they had a losing record and were 6-7 again last year. I think with how well they played when Mateer was healthy this year early on with Arbuckle, I think he probably gets one more year, but he's on the hot seat going into next year. I did think there was a chance early on he would get let go with a poor season. I think we're beyond that right now.
I still can't believe they lost the game to Texas. I never in a million years would I have thought they would have lost the game to Texas. When you look at what Texas has done offensively.
Yeah. I mean, Texas is good on D, but Mateer, they rushed him back. Yeah. We had times where he was coming off the field and his hand was bleeding because the stitches were breaking. He shouldn't have been playing, I don't think.
Yeah, it's one of those it was one of those situations to where the rivalry just got the best of them. Michael Hawkins could have won that game. I honestly believe that. I really believe that. Michael Hawkins could have won that game, but the rivalry just got to John Mateer.
And maybe it got to Venables too and allowing him to play.
Yeah. Potentially, because it does mean so much, because, they do the horns down and all of that stuff that you see. Them in Arkansas, they are completely ate up with Texas hate. I think they actually hate Texas more than A&M, which is crazy. At least Texas has the point where we're at least from Texas. They do that game. They're at least Texans. And it's like Oklahoma and Arkansas is like, no. They're the devil.
And I feel like A&M also at least has a rational idea of the bigger picture, the conference, where with Arkansas and Oklahoma, this game is the Super Bowl and that's it.
Yeah, it's absolutely nuts. All right, when we come back, we're going to take your comments, continue to talk about this game that is getting bigger by the second for Ole Miss and everybody else. So stick around for that. It's almost the weekend. Time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving money each and every time you order, these players delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it all down. For Ole Miss, it was Deshaun Stribling that delivered in a big way. It was a 3rd and long against off coverage, and Ole Miss threw a stop route. One move on the corner, and he was gone. It was a 75-yard touchdown. Something to pay attention to today against Oklahoma, by the way. When the pressure was on, he came through, no hesitation, no delay, and if you've been watching all week, this performance wasn't a fluke. Deshaun Stribling is on a streak, and just like Deshaun Stribling delivered for the Ole Miss Rebels, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays. With DoorDash streaks, you save every Saturday you order, stack it all up all season, and you can save up to $250, including $100 on DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday and keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period runs through November 18th. And the NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love how FanDuel gives me so many different ways to play. I built parlays, tried player props, even followed the live lines during games. It makes watching football even more exciting when you have a little something riding on the action. Whether you're a casual fan or love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes game day so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. All right, so Mike, let's get into the comments. If you have a comment in the section, we'll hit your comment right now to where, put where you're commenting from. We'll shout that out as well. But this is the 3rd segment. This is your 3rd segment. And also the subtext link down below in the description. If you click on that, that's going to be the exclusive home to any in-game thoughts to the Ole Miss game. Dalen Flowers, who's in Norman, Oklahoma, will be tweeting out to everybody what he's seeing, his thoughts on the game. So we'll see exactly what that looks like as well. And join that. No trolls, direct line of communication. Should be a lot of fun. So we'll see exactly how it goes. Mike, Alan Doan says no one talks about Chambliss coming from a place with no indoor facilities. I think he knows how to handle poor weather conditions more than most. I think John Mateer playing at Washington State would know how to play in the rain as well.
Yeah, I'm a northerner as much as anybody from Minnesota. The weather's different. The cold and snow is significantly different from monsoon rain, and you got to prepare differently. It's different.
So we'll see what it looks like. Yes, he is definitely set up to be good because he had to practice in the elements because you didn't get days off, but it is going to be a little bit different. The thing that I think you need to watch for in this game is the injury to John Mateer, his thumb, handling a wet football and a soggy field. So look for slips, look for catch and run, look for the defensive line being slowed down on both teams. I think that's going to be the major storylines today. So Blake Glover says, hotty toddy from Ellisville, Mississippi. That is Jones County Junior College territory. It's funny how every team Ole Miss faces is the best defense. LSU supposedly had the best. We cooked them just like we did Georgia and Oklahoma today. Listen, Mike, Oklahoma has a good defense and good players because Brent Venables is a really good coach. So Oklahoma fans that might be watching this, please take this in context. Oklahoma has not played a defense or an offense better than Texas this year.
I would say Michigan is better, but we're splitting hairs there. It's close.
But that was the first road start for Bryce Underwood too.
Yes.
Whenever they played. So it wasn't quite the same, but they haven't played an offense that's even good. It's almost like bad offense bingo they're playing right now. All they're lacking is Kentucky, and they'd hit them all.
Yeah. I'm offended as a Gamecock alumni when you say that, but no, it is absolutely true. And even then, like saying their defense is tilted. They're elite against the run. They're sacking the ball, but there's also some weird stats where they're not great either. So, yeah.
Yeah, whenever you look at this Oklahoma team, I do think the soggy field hurting the defensive line hurts the Oklahoma defensive line getting after the quarterback, which makes their secondary a little bit more susceptible. In my read, the last commercial break, we talked about Deshaun Stribling having a catch and run against Georgia. I think that's absolutely on the table with the way that Ole Miss is willing to play the short game with Trinidad Chambliss to these wide receivers. I think Oklahoma low key has to be an elite tackling team in this football game, or Ole Miss is going to nickel and dime them down the field.
They certainly could. Yeah. And I think this is a good comment by Blake. I don't know that I'd say you cooked LSU, but you did better against them than anybody else has. And that's a better defense. I think it's a better defense than what you're seeing today, even if the stats don't back that up at this time.
All right. The next one is Alan Hawkins. Essentially, this is a playoff game. Ole Miss, let's play like it. And it is a playoff game. It feels like a playoff game to where it's not necessarily win or go home, but it kind of feels that way, doesn't it?
It's, if you lose, running the table is the only option. You have zero margin for error if you drop this one today.
If you win this one today, everything is on the table. That's the crazy variance of winning and losing this game. Ole Miss won't be eliminated from the playoff if they lose to Oklahoma. I don't think they're going to make it. I think they're going to drop another personally. But if they win this game, 11-1 is absolutely on the table, buying the playoffs, the whole 9 yards.
I think if you win today, if you're Ole Miss, you buy the tickets for Atlanta.
Really?
Yeah.
Even with A&M being undefeated in Alabama and Georgia, because Georgia has the tiebreaker over you.
Yeah, the Georgia one becomes interesting. A&M or Bama, I think they don't both get in over you to the conference title game. And the tiebreakers there do become interesting. But you win today, it's a very, very good chance. I'm also basing that off of you're less likely to take a loss than those teams the rest of the way through.
Yeah, we're at the time of the year where the typical Texas A&M swoon kind of begins. I wouldn't surprise me if they lost at LSU just randomly tonight.
Who knows? Yeah, I did pick LSU on the show.
Yeah. So James York says HYDR from Vicksburg. Let's go. We need this game to get in the W column. Yes, this game feels very important for Ole Miss. And Tony Pierce with a hottie toddy from Hattiesburg, Mississippi. Thanks for tuning in. Remember to sign up for the subtext link. You'll have me giving my thoughts during the game. You'll have Dalen Flowers talking about his thoughts during the game. And if we have anything with Lane Kiffin, that stuff is going to go exclusively there. We're getting ready for this December 8th launch that we are going to do. So we are starting to move some stuff over. We brought some people in a little bit, so we'll see exactly how that goes. Anyway, Mike, what do you have going on today, bud?
Nothing. Obviously you can see the flake here. I'm working at Marshall now, but Herd have a bye. So for me, it's going to be watching a lot of games on TV and just kind of hanging out. There's certainly other good games on today. Obviously Mizzou Vandy's a big one. A low-key one that I'm curious to watch is Baylor-Cincinnati. That Cincinnati team's been fun this year. They're playing well.
All right. So we'll talk to you a little bit later, buddy, and thank you so much for doing this.
Take care. Thanks for having me.
All right. Enjoy the game, everybody. See you in a little bit after the game.